Hi kids, this is Grandma or Dama, depending on which kids you are. I'm going to read tonight from these 5-minute Star Wars stories. So the first one is called Race to the Finish Line. And I'll show you the picture to get you started. See, there it is. A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, Star Wars, The Phantom Menace, Race to the Finish Line. A long time ago, on a small planet called Tatooine, a young boy named Anakin Skywalker looked up at the planet's moons. Although he had never left home, Anakin had always dreamed of going on great adventures and racing across the stars. There's Anakin. See, he's looking up at the sky and dreaming about what it would be like to travel there. Have you ever wondered that? And then here's the next couple of pictures. One day, it looked like Anakin's dreams were coming true. He had met a Jedi Knight named Qui-Gon who needed supplies to repair his ship. Anakin didn't have money to help the Jedi, so he had entered a pod race, hoping to win the supplies. Although Anakin had never won a race before, he knew that he could do it. As the timer counted down to the beginning of the race, Anakin looked at all the other racers. He wasn't worried about any of them, except Sebulba. Anakin knew that Sebulba cheated to win, but he wouldn't get away with it this time. Have you ever played a game with somebody who cheats? That is so frustrating, isn't it? Doesn't it make you mad? I wouldn't want to make anybody else feel that way, would you? Okay, and here's what the next couple pages look like. Get my fingers out of the way. Suddenly, the starting gong rang. They were off, but something was wrong. Anakin's pod racer wouldn't move. Anakin began to panic. Sebulba must have done something to his pod racer. But Anakin thought of what Qui-Gon had told him right before the race began. Concentrate on the moment. Feel. Don't think. Use your instincts. Do you know what instincts are? They are deep feelings that you have just because you're alive. Your instincts are like if you're hungry or something scares you or you're happy, something that all living creatures feel. Anakin took a deep breath, flipped a few switches, and restarted his engines. They roared to life, and Anakin quickly flew away, but he was a long way behind Sebulba. Meanwhile, Sebulba knocked his ship against another racer's. The pod racer crashed off the course and burst into flames. It was on fire. Sebulba laughed. One fewer racer to worry about. That's not very nice, is it? Because the person who was in that pod could be hurt very badly. That's what he should be thinking about, is how does that person feel? Are they okay? Okay, so here's the next couple of pictures. Behind the crash, Anakin flew through a cavern and into a deep cave. One of the other racers wasn't paying attention and ran right into some rocks. The ship exploded. Anakin quickly flew around the fire. That was close, Anakin thought. Anakin raced through the stadium. He had 2 more laps to finish, but he smiled. He was catching up to Sebulba. The racers thundered across the planet. Sebulba was still ahead of everyone else, but he wanted to make sure it stayed that way. Sebulba threw a piece of metal behind him, and it went right into another racer's engine. The engine exploded, and pieces of the pod racer flew everywhere. That is so scary. What a mean guy. Here's what the next couple pages look like. So just keep that in mind while I read these pages. A piece cut through the cable connecting Anakin's cockpit to one of his engines. Do you know what a cockpit is? That's the part of the airplane or the spaceship where the pilot sits, where the guy sits who's driving it or flying it. Anakin began to spin out of control, but he remembered Qui-Gon's words. Anakin couldn't just worry about his problem if he wanted to win the race. He needed to fix it. Anakin quickly brought his cockpit under control and grabbed a loose cable. What's a cable? This thing. This is a cable. It's a long metal rope. Very strong rope made out of metal. Soon he had reattached the engine and was back in the race. Sebulba and Anakin zoomed through the stadium one last time before the final lap. With all the other racers far behind, Anakin realized that Sebulba was the only one between him and the finish line. Ugh. Okay, here's how the next one looks. Sebulba's pod racer was much bigger than Anakin's. He forced Anakin off the course and high up onto a cliff. But Anakin wasn't going to be beaten. He changed gears and crashed back onto the course right in front of Sebulba. For the first time, Anakin was in the lead. That meant he was ahead. He was the first one in the up front. That's how this one looks like. Suddenly, Anakin saw smoke coming out of one of his engines. The pod racer was on fire. The hard landing must have damaged it. As Sebulba raced ahead of him, Anakin knew he didn't have a lot of time. He needed to fix his pod racer right away. Anakin closed a flap above the engine to put out the fire. Then he quickly pumped coolant into the overheated area. What's coolant, do you think? I think it's some kind of stuff that cools down something that's too hot. Maybe it's like a liquid, like water. Soon the engine roared back to full power. Anakin grinned. It was time to win the race. That's how the next couple of pages look. Anakin could see the stadium getting closer and closer as he pulled up right next to Sebulba. Sebulba tried to push Anakin's smaller ship off the course again, but Anakin had a plan this time. As Sebulba rammed him, Anakin caught his pod racer on Sebulba's. Sebulba was stuck. Then, as Sebulba tried to pull his ship away, Anakin unhooked their crafts. And a craft is a spaceship. Sebulba zoomed wildly off course and smashed part of his pod racer into a rock. Anakin had used Sebulba's own attack against him. No. This is the last page of this story. Anakin raised his hands over his head as he crossed the finish line. The crowd cheered. Qui-Gon ran to Anakin's pod racer and lifted him high up onto his shoulders. Anakin had done what had seemed impossible. He had won the race. Anakin smiled. One of his dreams had come true. He couldn't help wondering what great adventure he'd have next. See, there he is. He won the race. And it was a very special win because it was not very likely that he would win. So that made it even more fun. Now, the next thing I'm going to read is from the Berenstain Bears Storytime collection. And the first one is New Baby. This way to bear country. You'll know when you're there. As soon as you enter, you'll feel like a bear. Okay, here's what the bear house's tree house looked like. It was a very fine house. Whoops, I think I skipped a page. Yes, I did. Okay, here are the first two. Mama and Papa Bear. Down a sunny dirt road over a log bridge up a grassy hill deep in bear country lived a family of bears. Papa Bear, Mama Bear, and Small Bear. They lived in a large tree which Papa Bear had hollowed out and made into a house. And see, Brother Bear was called Small Bear until Sister came along, and then he was called Brother Bear because he had a sister. Okay. It was a very fine house. This is what it looked like inside. See how they have everything they need? They have a living room, they have bedrooms, kitchen, all kinds of good places for all their needs. Okay, here's what Brother Bear's life was like, or Small Bear. There were all sorts of interesting things for a small bear to do and see in bear country. See, he's chasing a butterfly. Let me get a hold of the book better. He's chasing a butterfly here. He's fishing. He's looking at spiders and their webs. He's looking at the moon, flying a kite. Get my hand out of the way. He's boating and swimming. Okay, and here he is getting ready to go to bed. Small Bear felt good growing up in a tree in his own room, in the snug little bed that Papa Bear had made for him when he was a baby. See, isn't that nice? And here's what the next couple of pictures look like. But one morning, it did not feel so good. Small Bear woke up with pains in his knees and aches in his legs. Small Bear, you have outgrown your little bed, said Papa Bear, as he hitched up his overalls and buttoned his shoulder straps. Today we shall go out into the woods and make you a bigger one. So they're going to make a bigger bed for him. Okay, and here's what the next 2 pages look like. With that, he ate his breakfast of piping hot porridge, which is like oatmeal, washed it down with it's hot cereal, washed it down with a gulp of honey from the family honey pot, took up his axe and was out the door. But Papa, called Small Bear, following after him, what will happen to my little bed? Okay, so here's Mama Bear saying goodbye to them. Don't worry about that, Small Bear, said Mama Bear as she closed the door after him. She smiled and patted her front, which had lately grown very big and round. You've outgrown that snug little bed just in time. Just in time for what? We're going to find out. So here is Small Bear and Papa Bear, and they're out in the woods, and they are going to get some wood to make a new bed out of. What will happen to my little bed? Small Bear asked as he caught up with Papa Bear. But Papa was sharpening his axe on his grinding stone and didn't hear. Yes, indeed, said Papa Bear. You need a bed you can stretch out in, a bed that will not give you pains in your knees and aches in your legs. He tested the axe to see if it was sharp, then headed off into the woods. Do you know what the woods are? That's a place with a lot of trees. It's also called a forest. Okay, and here's the next 2 pages. What will happen to my little bed? Small Bear asked again as he caught up with Papa Bear in the woods. Papa had chopped down a tree and was splitting it into boards. We will have a new baby soon who will need that little bed, said Papa Bear as he whacked off another board. A new baby? Asked Small Bear. He hadn't noticed that Mama Bear had grown very round lately, although he had noticed it was harder and harder to sit on her lap. And it's coming soon? Yes, very soon, said Papa Bear. With a final whack, he split off the last board, which gave him enough wood to make a bigger bed for Small Bear. Well, that's exciting. They're going to have a baby. Have you ever had a baby come to your house to stay? A brother or a sister? Where your parents went to the hospital and then came home with a baby? Or maybe you were the baby. Here's the next part of the story. They made the bed a good size and took the rest of the day to chip and shave it smooth and neat. Then they carried it back to the tree and up to Small Bear's room. Oh, and here's the next part of the story. Look, there's the baby, his sister bear. When they got there, Small Bear noticed right away that his old bed wasn't there anymore. My little bed, said Small Bear, it's already gone. You outgrew it just in time, called Mama Bear from the next room. Come and see. It was true. There was his snug little bed with a new little baby in it. Small Bear had outgrown his snug little bed just in time for his new baby sister, and now he was a big brother. And here's the next part. She was very little but very lively. That means active. As Small Bear leaned over for a closer look, she popped him on the nose with a tiny fist. Said Small Bear. She has a pretty good punch for a little baby. And here's the next part. That night he stretched out proudly in his bigger bed. Ah, he said, being a big brother is going to be fun. The next morning he woke up feeling fine with no pains in his knees or aches in his legs. His nose was a little tender, though. Do you know what tender means? It means sore, a little bit sore. And now he's not really Small Bear anymore. He's Brother Bear because he has a sister. Okay, well, thank you for listening to me, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.